escola.
I like to sing Smooth Criminal and Billie Jean.
I like ice cream. I like tacos.
Moi, j'ai aimé à jouer foot.
Red and pink are my favorite colors.
Off the wall. Thriller.
You want to sing one for us?
No.
Me gusta la gimnasia. I love my sister.
That's your brother, silly. You're a sister.
我最喜欢的颜色是紫色。
I like taekwondo. I am born to be a leader.
We're twins. My favorite color is dark blue.
I like to carry the torch for Special Olympics.
I am just like you. I'm just like you.
Io sono come voi.
I'm just like you.
我和你一样。
We're just like you.
Moi, je suis comme toi.
I'm just like you.
I am just like you.
We are just like you.
Soy como tú.
I'm just like you.
I'm just like you. He's
I am just like you.
I'm just like you. I like art.
My favorite song is Michael Jackson.
I make jewelry. I made this bracelet.
I like to read, eat, and sleep.
Mi piace a scuola, un pochino a scuola.
I like to sing Smooth Criminal and Billie Jean.
I like ice cream. I like tacos.
Moi, j'ai aimé à jouer foot.
Red and pink are my favorite colors.
Off the wall. Thriller.
You want to sing one for us?
No.
Me gusta la gimnasia. I love my sister.
That's your brother, silly. You're a sister.
我最喜欢的颜色是紫色。
I like taekwondo. I am born to be a leader.
We're twins. My favorite color is dark blue.
I like to carry the torch for Special Olympics.
I am just like you. I'm just like you.
Io sono come voi.
I'm just like you.
我和你一样。
We're just like you.
Moi, je suis comme toi.
I'm just like you.
I am just like you.
We are just like you.
Soy como tú.
I'm just like you.
I'm just like you. He's
I am just like you.
I'm just like you. I like art.
My favorite song is Michael Jackson.
I make jewelry. I made this bracelet.
I like to read, eat, and sleep.
Mi piace a scuola, un pochino a scuola.
I like to sing Smooth Criminal and Billie Jean.
I like ice cream. I like tacos. Moi, j'aimais à jouer foot.
Red and pink are my favorite colors.
Off the wall. Thriller.
You want to sing one?
No.
Me gusta la gimnasia. I love my sister.
That's your brother, silly. You're a sister.
我最喜欢的颜色是紫色。
I like taekwondo. I am born to be a leader. We're twins.
My favorite color is dark blue.
I like to carry the torch for Special Olympics.
I am just like you. I'm just like you.
Io sono come voi.
I'm just like you.
我和你一样。
We're just like you.
Moi, je suis comme toi.
I'm just like you.
Merci.
I am just like you.
We are just like you. Soy como tú. I'm just like you.
I'm just like you. Peace out.
I am just like
You.
I'm just like you. I like art.
My favorite song is Michael Jackson.
I make jewelry. I made this bracelet.
I like to read, eat, and sleep.
Mi piace a scuola, un pochino a scuola.
I like to sing Smooth Criminal and Billie Jean.
I like ice cream. I like tacos. Moi, j'aimais à jouer foot.
Red and pink are my favorite colors.
Off the wall. Thriller.
You want to sing one?
No.
Me gusta la gimnasia. I love my sister.
That's your brother, silly. You're a sister.
我最喜欢的颜色是紫色。
I like taekwondo. I am born to be a leader. We're twins.
My favorite color is dark blue.
I like to carry the torch for Special Olympics.
I am just like you. I'm just like you.
Io sono come voi.
I'm just like you.
我和你一样。
We're just like you.
Moi, je suis comme toi.
I'm just like you.
Merci.
I am just like you.
We are just like you. Soy como tú. I'm just like you.
I'm just like you. Peace out.
I am just like
You.
just like you. I like art.
My favorite song is Michael Jackson.
I make jewelry. I made this bracelet.
I like to read, eat, and sleep.
Mi piace la scuola, un pochino alla scuola.
I like to sing Smooth Criminal and Billie Jean.
I like ice cream. I like tacos. Moi, j'ai aimé jouer foot.
Then I pick my favorite colors.
Off the wall. Thriller.
You want to sing one?
No.
Me gusta la gimnasia. I love my sister.
That's your brother, silly. You're a sister.
我最喜欢的颜色是紫色。I like taekwondo. I am born to be a leader. We're twins.
My favorite color is dark blue.
Hi, my name is Molly Korte. I'm founder of Project Just Like You. I began Project Just Like You in the fall of 2016 after my son Jacob was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. I wanted the world to see how he and all other people with disabilities are just like anybody else. So Project Just Like You came into fruition, and as of this past summer, it became a nonprofit. I'm so glad you're with us tonight. Thank you for being here. We want to share your story. So you can email us at projectjustlikeyou@gmail.com to fill out a form. We'd love to feature you or feature your child or someone in your family that you love. Today's Movement Monday. This is a new initiative this year, our 2018 initiative of Project Just Like You. Our goal is to introduce you to people who are out there doing awesome things for the disability community and who are making waves, making movements. Join us each week and check us out on Facebook. Fiat Ministry, who produces our shows. Thank you to the Fiat Ministry. You can check them out on Facebook, and you can also check them out at fiatministry.tv. I hope you'll take a moment to click the share button and let your friends know what you're watching. Everyone who contributes a relevant question or contribution tonight will be entered in to win a really exciting prize tonight. A complimentary online rental of the film, This Business of Autism, and a signed copy of Stephen Mackey's winery memoir, Dream, Build, Believe. This is a really exciting giveaway, and we will pick a random number at the end of the interview, and you can notify us via messenger what your address is, and we'll get back to you on that. So please make sure you comment, ask questions, be part of our conversation tonight. Again, thank you for being part of this conversation, and spending your Monday evening with us. Tonight, we want to welcome Stephen Mackey. Stephen is a gifted storyteller, dynamic public speaker, and a Telly Award-winning producer and director. Stephen has a wide range of experience in all facets of creative multimedia production. Engaged internationally as a presenter, wine composer, audio engineer, and event producer, his work has taken him to 6 continents with entertainers such as Matchbox 20, Bon Jovi, excuse me, ooh, but I had to sneeze, Garth Brooks, Ted Nugget, Jars of Clay, Amy Grant, Tanya Tucker, Midnight Oil, and Julio Iglesias. From video production, script writing, audio engineering, and production design, to software development, digital media market product management, in executive technology and operations management. His wide range of experiences allow him to find the most unique elements of each story production. Stephen is the co-founder with his wife, Shannon, who's awesome, of Mesh Omni Media, a creative agency with offices in Colorado Springs and Northern Virginia. He is also an internationally award-winning wine composer for Nota Viva Vineyards, the world's first winery to pair wine with music. Also founded with his wife, Shannon. And I have to say, guys, if you have not been to Nota Viva Winery, you need to do it. It's a great experience. He has recently completed his first novel, Dream, Build, Believe, the memoir on the founding of their winery. He delights in family pursuits, enjoying any time he can with their 3 young sons, from camping to music to sports to arts and crafts. Volunteering as a coach, Cub Scout den leader, lecturer, and community activist, his passion for creative media projects is surpassed only by his passion for his family and his friends. So with all that being said, welcome, Stephen.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for your interest and support in the film. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're so excited about this. I mean, this is an incredible venture you've taken on here, Stephen. So I'm curious, let's start at the beginning here. How did this business of autism come about?
So that's probably one of the questions that we get most. A lot of people kind of assume that because we took such an interest in the project that we must be personally touched by autism somehow, and we're not. We're very blessed, you know, we came across this project through a client and now a very dear friend, a gentleman by the name of Michael Prunis, who was the executive producer of the film. So going back to 2015. Michael is a very successful businessman, and we've been working for one of his companies since about 2009. In 2015, he reached out to me and said that he's on the board of a local nonprofit on the North Shore of Long Island called Spectrum Designs, which is a business with it's a social enterprise, business with a social mission. And he asked me to redo their logo and work on their website for him. And so I traveled up to Long Island, and I suggested to Michael that, you know, you can tell people about, you know, people on the spectrum, you know, working in a production facility, a manufacturing facility, creating custom apparel, but you really want to show it, right? You really want to get this on video. So I suggested a corporate overview video. So we went up there and had the opportunity to film the 3 founders. And really my aha moment was walking into the floor of their then very small, very cramped production facility, 1,500 square feet in a community center, and just watching these folks, just the quality of the product, right? It struck me immediately, working in creative industries and having toured in rock and roll for 10 years. I've seen my share of t-shirts, you know, but the work that they're putting out was pristine. The t-shirts were perfect. And it really struck me that their capabilities that are presented to them being on the spectrum are very well suited for this kind of work, very comfortable with routine. And so we had the opportunity, we did their website, did their logo. And so we started following them on Facebook. I was just, you know, very, very taken with the story and just very taken with the passion of the founders and the people that work there. Fast forward to last April of 2017, I saw a big announcement on their Facebook page, on Spectrum Design's Facebook page, that they had completed a capital fundraising campaign. And it was going to enable them to purchase a 7,500 square foot building and move out of the 1,500 square foot space that they were renting in the local community center. It's just literally 2 blocks away. So I reached out to Michael and Patrick Bardsley, the CEO of Spectrum Designs. I emailed them and said, look, I've been wanting to do a documentary film, because with our creative agency, Mesh Omni Media, we do a lot of corporate overview videos and things like that. But I was looking for something much deeper, something that has social purpose and could really reach a lot of people. So I reached out to Michael and Patrick and kind of pitched them on the idea, because I've been wanting to do a story about Spectrum for a while, but they just keep doing better and better and more stuff. And I'm like, how do you where are we going to start and where are we going to finish? But with the construction of a building, I knew that we would have in film production what we call a spine or a narrative arc. There was a beginning, there could be rising action, there was going to be a ribbon cutting, a climax, and then falling action, and then resolution. And long story short, they wrote me back later that same afternoon. Michael greenlighted the project, and Patrick said, we're in. And so that was the end of April. And then I told my team about it on our next status meeting, and we hopped in the car and left, I think, a week later to begin the filming. Before we even knew what we were filming, we were on our way to New York to start rolling the cameras, and I said, I'll figure it all out later.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So you ended up filming this this amazing documentary, which I was so excited to have the privilege to be able to watch it ahead of time. Well, with everything though, there's always challenges, right, Stephen? So what were some of the what were some of the challenges you had with the filming?
Well, I think the challenges, and in a way, I'm kind of lucky because my wife and I actually were featured on a reality television series unrelated to this project years ago about the construction of our winery. And having been through this process of trying to schedule things with so many moving parts and so many plates on sticks, plus involving, 6 hour round, 6 hour one-way travel and loading all of the gear. So that was one level of complexity, is just, trying to work with Patrick and the construction crew, because mind you, they've just closed on a new building. Mm-hmm. They have to demo the entire inside of it. They basically gutted the whole place down to the studs, took everything out, and they had to rebuild it from the ground up according to the safety specifications and the flow of the custom apparel production facility. And so that was one set of challenges that Patrick had to deal with on a day in and day out basis. He's trying to communicate to me what he thought the schedule would be. And then we make plans to travel, and then the electricians change their mind, or a permit doesn't come in, or the fire marshal changes the plan, or whatever. And so just this constant give and take and flux of trying to film this with, the challenges of a production schedule. That was the easy part of the challenges. The hard part of the challenges for me was writing, again, what we call the story arc, right? So having no experience in the world of autism, the film, my fear with the film was that it was going to turn into a Spectrum infomercial, right? And I said, it can't be that. It has to have meaning to the deeper meaning. So what are the themes of the film going to be? And I spent a lot of time, and again, I can't say enough just about the patience and the graciousness of Patrick and Stella and Nicole and Tim and Dave and Mackenzie and everybody at Spectrum in helping me figure out what is the real story, right? And so the real story, as I started to do my research and talk to them and exchanged emails, we basically broke the film out into 4 different themes, right? And so it was the unsustainability of government programs, right? You just can't throw money at this problem and expect to solve anything. Corporate social responsibility. What is the role of big business in supporting small businesses with a social mission? What is the role of the family in the community? And what is the role of the entrepreneurs? Folks like Patrick and Stella, and who are these other entrepreneurs out there across America, around the world, who have the means to do something like this, who may or may not be personally affected by autism or any developmental disability. Again, what we learned through the course of filming is that their business model extends well beyond autism, right? It's a model that incorporates community, government, and entrepreneurship in the role of the family. And so as I dug deeper into each of those themes, I came across a really, really good book that for me helped define some of those things. It's called The Autism Job Club. It's written by a gentleman named Michael Bernick, who is the former California director of economic diversity and development, something like that. It's all written down on the website. I wrote it down because I'll never get it right when I try to say it off. So reading the Autism Job Club, for me, coming, as a neurotypical, coming from that background, wanting to respect this community, right? That was a big fear of mine, was not getting the film to be authentic, have it be patronizing or condescending. And the one thing that the Autism Job Club and certainly the folks at Spectrum really encouraged me to do is they're like, let these people speak for themselves. They're perfectly capable. But if you look at all of the other autism documentaries that are out there around the world, it's all other people speaking on their behalf. Certainly there's some of that in our film, but we really, really wanted to put, people on the spectrum on camera. Tell us your story. And that, I think, added so much depth and authenticity and heart and emotion and beauty, if you will, to the film. And so trying to figure all of those things out. When we started last May of what I thought the film was going to be, I take a lot of pride as a producer and as a writer to saying we went deep on a lot of different themes. And that's why I think the product that we have today resonates with everybody, right? You don't, when you look at autism, and even when we started this project, it was 1 in 68 people. And during the course of the project, that changed. It's now 1 in 59, according to the CDC.
It's crazy, isn't it?
You can't keep up with this, you know? So trying to figure out all of those things, and again, be respectful, but still push a few buttons. I mean, being a filmmaker, you have to examine all the issues from both sides. You have to push a few buttons. You have to create a little discomfort for the viewer. So in trying to figure all of that stuff out on the fly, in the car, on the way from Virginia to New York, saying, we're filming tomorrow. What are we shooting? I basically did that for a year.
That had to be gut-wrenching.
It was, and I give a lot of credit to my team.
Nail biting.
A lot of credit to my family. There were a lot of moments where, Shannon and my boys are like, well, you got to go. And I said, I got to go. We have to catch this moment of the filming because it's very critical in sort of conveying the story and going. So a lot of patience by a lot of people playing the Where's Steven game for a year. Oh man.
Oh, that sounds like so much. Stephen, one of the things that I want to touch upon that you just said was how it was important for you as a producer and a director to make sure that the voices of the people were heard that you were filming. And I think that is such, I applaud you for that. And I thank you for that because it is such an important aspect for the disability community to have our own voices. And I feel like it's something that it's a constant battle where you were saying other people, this is an issue where other people want to speak on behalf and to have that person first, to share their story person first, which is what Project Just Like You is all about, is so vital if this world is going to change.
One of the things that, one of the most special experiences in the production of this film and in my career, as I look back over, 30 years in the entertainment and digital media production industry, was the hour that we spent with Temple, with Dr. Grandin. It was, I tell people, they're like, what was it like filming Temple? I was like, it was like playing chess with Garry Kasparov. You know that you're sitting across from the table from someone who's way smarter than you. You're going to win this game, but you're just sort of like hanging on for dear life, her grace, her intelligence, her passion, her orneriness, her grit. She is everything and more that people perceive her to be.
Absolutely.
But she did say something, and we spent an hour interviewing Temple, and only 5 or 6 minutes of that make it in the film. So there's so much more that she had to offer. But she spoke to that quite a bit. That in order to really nurture and encourage, and I think the word here is empower these folks. She's like, you've got to start with the paper route substitutes. These kids got to start working at 11. Somebody else has to be the boss. If they're just sitting at home playing video games and all of those stuff. I mean, her segment, let me use movie words, her sequence in the film is so powerful. And, part of me thinks, and I still may do this, is to just take her entire interview and just push it out there on YouTube, because the depth of and importance of that content for the practitioners, the educators, the families, and everybody. I think it has such just tremendous value. So yeah, she was something. But one thing that she said was, you know, a lot of times, you know, the parents of developmentally disabled children really get hung up in just identifying as I'm a parent of a special needs child, and they get very protective. It's perfectly understandable. You know, the Temple's whole thing is like, you've got to push these kids out into the world, you know, at whatever level you think they're capable of. But for us, you know, as filmmakers, and again, hats off to Patrick, he really helped us identify people from across the spectrum at different levels of, you know, communication abilities and you know, things like that, to really show the diversity. I said at the Q&A after our Virginia premiere, you know, I knew nothing about autism going into this film. And after spending a year with this community, I think I know less than I did when I started.
Fair enough.
The diversity is so amazing and inspiring and interesting, you know, and Temple said it best. She's like, the word autism, and this is a quote from the film, the word autism applies to someone that can't dress themselves and someone who's designing rockets for NASA, you know. And,
yes, absolutely.
And we met all of the people from
Right.
one end to the other, and it was just really a fascinating journey. Yeah.
That's incredible. I'm going to pause here for just a second,
Please.
Stephen. I'd like to welcome Emily, Jen, Tony, Brian, Kent, Kelly, Sohail, Kathy, and Rob. Thank you so much for joining us. We're glad that you chose to spend your Monday evening with us. Again, we are with Stephen Mackey. Stephen Mackey, who's the producer and the director of This Business of Autism. And we are so excited to have him on a show tonight. Again, please bring your questions. Please bring your comments. We really want you to be part of this conversation. And one lucky winner will win a free sorry about that.
You got it.
I heard something in the background there. Will win a free rental of This Business of Autism and win a signed copy of Stephen Mackey's book, Dream, Build, Believe. So yes, so thank you again for being part of it.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Temple Grandin, she is one of my heroes, especially being a mom of a child on the spectrum. And I thought what she said in the film was absolutely brilliant. And coming from Temple, she earned so much respect, Dr. Grenadine, she earned so much respect in the autism community. And really in the neurotypical community, like everywhere. She commands respect. And when she was talking about, in the film, when she was talking about how they need meaningful work, people with disabilities need meaningful work, not just lifting boxes from one shelf and putting them up to the next. And that is, sadly though, Stephen, is a lot of the times what people, when they graduate high school, they're sent off to do just this pointless, meaningless work. And we have another issue at hand in our society, which I'm sure you're probably aware of too, which is loss syndrome, where people are making way below minimum wage if they have a disability, and that's legal. And this is another area that's really impacting the disability community that should not be there. I want to give a huge shout out to the National Down Syndrome Society, who's fighting tooth and nail right now to change loss syndrome. But there seems to be so many factors that are working against the person with disabilities who's just trying to earn a fair wage and who's trying to provide for themselves, maybe provide for their families. And it's an uphill battle, and it needs to stop. And so your film, this documentary coming out, really shines a light on the incredible work that people with disabilities can do. And it shouldn't be a shocking thing. It shouldn't be something that's, this should just be a standard thing, not a highlight, you know, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Absolutely.
just,
And I can touch on that from, again, as I was writing my interview questions and I was trying to figure out the direction that I wanted to take people, right? So to step back into this a little bit, what does a film producer do, right? I have a vision for the direction that I want to take the film. And so I write my interview questions ahead of time based on the content that we think we want to do. But when you sit down in that chair and you start interviewing people, it's 90% psychology and it's 10% preparation. You have to feel, where is this person passionate? Where are we taking the direction of this? And I will say everybody that we interviewed, there was some sort of question that spoke to that point, right? About ensuring that these people are doing paid employment, not volunteer. And you could feel the blood pressure going up in the person that you're speaking to. That there's a lot of dissatisfaction, if not downright anger, for the fact that a lot of times these people are being taken advantage of. Let's just say it. I'm happy to say it. You know, I've seen it. And one of the moms that we spoke to told us about her son, I think a sophomore in high school, was working in a retail place, and his job, and Mary Martha says this in the film, his job was to take all of the boxes off the bottom shelf and put them on the top shelf. And I told Temple about that story, and she hit the roof. She says, well, that's stupid. And it is. You know,
it is. She's very honest, isn't she?
Really
Not
is.
that I've ever met her in person, but the stories that I've heard,
oh my
the
gosh,
interviews I've seen her in,
and
she's very honest.
In the film, she talks about, she's like, you know, someone saw in a research journal that, you know, someone asked someone on the spectrum to set and unset the table 10 times. And she's like, but you don't do that in real life, right? And so anybody's going to get frustrated by that. And yes, you know, a lot of these places and programs that are set up to just give these kids the ability to do something in high school as a program, but then they turn around and they don't give these folks jobs, right? And just the anxiety that we experienced in speaking to these families about the whole falling off the cliff, right? You know, you've aged out of high school, you've aged out of programs, and now your options are exactly zero, right? And then something that Patrick said, I think is my new favorite phrase in the QA after the Virginia premiere. He said, the message to the neurotypical community has to be this: presume competence. Don't look at someone with a developmental disability and just automatically assume that you're going to be handed someone who can't do anything and you're going to have to find something that they can do. It's like, presume competence of them like you would any other employee. And then perhaps, yes, some limitations may reveal themselves, you know, over time or whatever, and you work with it. And the other benefits of hiring people from this population far outweigh all of those things, you know? So I think it's a paradigm shift in the neurotypical community to one, not just lay volunteer work on this community, right? If they're doing a job and they're doing it well, they deserve the same level of compensation as anybody else that might be doing that job, right? Here in Northern Virginia, we've got a couple of organizations that are training people and giving them opportunities in the agricultural field. You know, yes, a lot of that work is seasonal, but it's routine. There's a beginning, there's an end. You can tell success based on the number of things that you achieve, and it works very well for these folks. But at the same time, if somebody on the spectrum picked 30 lugs of grapes and somebody who wasn't on the spectrum picked 30 loaves of grapes, they should get the same paycheck. It's just that simple.
Right, exactly, absolutely. And it seems so common sense, right? I mean, if you're doing the same job, but exactly. And we have this barrier still in 2018, which is shocking, that still separates working adults who have disabilities and neurotypical. And it's not right. It's not right.
Well, the other part of that model that I think is very important, and I really wanted to draw this out in the film, we have several people speak to it, is if you look at the macroeconomic model and the unsustainability of government programs, right? I think it was Jim Murtha that said, look, a lot of these folks are on Social Security and disability or whatever, but for every $2 that they make at their place of employment, they lose I think, $1 of those benefits. So there is an actual upside benefit to everybody, neurodiverse community, neurotypical community, or whatever, to incent these people to work and not just throw money at day-hab programs that, one, aren't going to give them any viable opportunities. Yes,
Absolutely.
some of these folks will need programs and an assistance their whole life. However, they are capable of doing work at a sustainable level. And like I said, I've just spent a year filming inside of Spectrum. The shirts are perfect. I mean, it's not, but you hear stories from people. I'm worried about buying my T-shirt there. It's a bunch of kids with disabilities. I'm like, Spectrum has embraced that challenge and said, our products have to be that much better because people come in with that misguided assumption, and the work that they produce is perfect. It's on time. It's the same quality. It's the same customer service, and there's a social mission on top of it. It's like I tell the story to some of my friends. A buddy of mine is a landscaper, and he says, you mean they're never late? Like, no, they're never late. He's like, you mean they only take a 10-minute break? Well, yeah, you have to make them take a break because they don't want to leave their job. And he's like, I got to fire a guy, every week and hire a new guy. And Dave Thompson, the director of workforce development at the Nicholas Center, I think I left his quote in the film. It was very important to me. He's like, if you want someone who is loyal, if you want someone who is trustworthy, honest to a fault, dependable, with great attention to detail, hire someone on the Spectrum.
No doubt. Absolutely. And, I'm glad that you're bringing this up. I'm glad that this film is bringing awareness to this situation, because it really needs to be told. Light needs to be shed on this. Mm-hmm. It needs to change. Going to take another break. We want to welcome Linda and Montag. Montag wants to know where she can find the information on the labor law that I mentioned. Montag, that is called the Fair Labor Standards Act. That's the FLSA. It is an 80-year-old law on the books that still separates the wage that says that you can pay someone with a disability less than someone who's neurotypical. So again, that's called the Fair Labor Standards Act, the FLSA. We have another question here, or we have a comment here. Rob writes in and says, talking about challenging kids with disabilities, right on. As an adult with a disability, I meet some kids who wait for reasonable accommodation. I talk to them about making their own reasonable efforts. Excellent. Thank you for coming in, Rob. We're glad that you're here tonight with us. Kelly wants to know, Stephen, how did you get inspired to do what you do?
There's a lot of layers to that, and I'm happy to share. So again, as I look back over all of my life's pursuits, starting off as an audio engineer, mixing big rock shows all over the world, and then the thing that drew me into internet technologies was the ability to reach people and to positively impact people, and to think that I'm going to make a website and somebody on the other side of the globe is going to get some benefit from it, maybe be happy. And then you kind of get, drawn into, pursuing your career, and, many years and a couple of decades for me into my career, you just start wondering, I want to do something meaningful. I feel very blessed to have been, to have the talents that I have and family and opportunities that I have. And I think that we all bear a responsibility to look out in the world and recognize and admit that there are problems, that there are issues, that there are things that need to be addressed. And you can either stick your head in the sand, or you can go make a movie. And so, making a movie is not a trivial endeavor by any means. I mean, it takes a lot of money, and we got very, very lucky with the support of our great friend, like I said, Mike Prunis. And I do want to mention our sponsors, because they, we got some checks from people that really, really helped us during editing. And so our friends at Alex Partners, our friends, the Buyers, who are the founders of, Men on the Move in Long Island, and Sammy Fishbein and her girlfriends, who are the founders of Betches.com. And when you watch the film, it is so just endearing and beautiful to see these folks working on these just, Betches is just as irreverent as it comes. And to see these just beautiful people in the custom apparel shop and all of the folks with autism printing up T-shirts that says, "There's no way you woke up like that." It's just really, it's really hysterical. But, again, thanks to our sponsors, because their belief, not just in the film, but their belief in Spectrum. These folks have options. They can get their T-shirts printed anywhere, and they get their T-shirts printed at Spectrum because it's a great product at a great price. And so, when you look at all of those things, and I think John Byer, the father of Greg Byer, it's the first family that you meet in the film, he saw what was happening at Spectrum, and he said, the opportunity is great, the support is great, but his son is happy doing the work. And, for parents, again, Shannon and I is, for us, some of the most intimate and touching and heart-wrenching moments were the interviews with the families, watching a father break down, telling you the story about his child. The strength of the mothers is they're like, we just kick into research mode, and, the dads kick into, I got to make a lot of money mode. But the families, and the commitment of the siblings or whatever, I just have such a deep respect for these folks and what you, Molly, and your family go through on a day in and day out basis. The rest of us are fortunate in our own way. And so I just think we have a social responsibility to tell these stories. And I'd been wanting to do a documentary film. And I just, I told Patrick, I'm like, this just might be a one and done for me. Like, how do you top this? I don't know what to do next. I really don't. I've got a long list of ideas, and I'm like, I don't know how to top this film. I really don't.
It was an incredible film. It is an incredible film. And I hope that everyone who's watching tonight will go see it, because it's very eye-opening and it's very raw. And as you said, people are speaking in first person, and that is something that needs to be continued to do in films and continue to do. It's very empowering to hear them in their own voices, in their own words.
And let me, I just want to add something there that we actually had a great opportunity way back in March. We had some friends and family and some local practitioners in the Northern Virginia area come over and watch the very first cut of the film. And most of it was just interview footage and string out footage. And I just said, help, offer up your commentary. And they were wonderful in helping me. The film as it stands today would not be as good as it is without the input of these folks, some of whom had children on the spectrum, some of whom are teachers and work in this community. But the one thing that was very interesting, a question and a comment, we had an open discussion after I previewed the film for them, was should we delineate in the film those who are on the spectrum and those who are not, in terms of the lower third when you see an interviewee? And the overwhelming response was no. It's everybody's the same, everybody's equal. Let's not have an us and them, kind of model in there. And there's a couple of gotcha moments, I think, in the film where people are like, whoa, wait, huh? That guy's on the spectrum? I had no idea. And that's the point of the film. You had no idea that the person who's been speaking to you for 4 minutes is on the spectrum.
Right.
And, Brad McGarry, our friend up at Mercyhurst University, is like, if he looks like my friend and he talks like my friend and he acts like my friend, why can't we employ him like my friend? And so that's kind of a subtlety of me as producer and director, of just when I'm sitting in the theater and watching people's reaction to that. They're like, wait, what? That guy was on the spectrum? It's like,
right.
Yeah. He doesn't have a tattoo on his forehead that says, right. I'm on the spectrum. Right. It doesn't work like that.
That's right, yes. And as you were saying, you have everything on the spectrum, from the nonverbal person to the one who is with NASA building rockets.
Exactly.
I mean, everywhere in between. It's the most complex, it's very, speaking from experience from watching my own son, Jacob, there was a moment when we found out we weren't even sure Jacob would ever speak, truly. And today, Jacob is saying sentences.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, though, that Jacob could revert back and stop talking. It's very It's a mystery. It is. And you're right. I mean, there were certain people on there that were so coherent and so that were talking so well. And you're right, Stephen. You thought, wait, that person's on the spectrum.
You know, and the again, the heart-wrenching part of some of those stories is the label, right? And so we spoke to a number of people who had been diagnosed who wished they hadn't been, because they're like, I had a bunch of friends on Monday and I had nobody on Tuesday. And the only thing that changed is the diagnosis came in and I got this label put on me and the world treated me differently. I was the same person from day one to day two. And that, I think, is a shame on us, the neurotypical community. And, you know, again, one of the fathers, Ken Colmay, in the film, he said, you know, ideas can change. And he's like, but, you know, people won't change that much, you know? And I think he's right. I don't know what it is about the label. Yes, some people need the label so that we can sign them up for government support programs. And yes, you got to have that. But that whole thing is broken too. When you hear those stories in the film of a father having to take his son down to a doctor to prove that he still has autism so that he can continue to get benefits. And the father saying, I didn't know there was a cure. I had him cured a long time ago. Right. You know, and just the humiliation of those moments. I like I said, I give all of those parents and all of you families so much respect, because I would have just not handled it with as much grace that we see a lot of these folks doing. You know, so again, one of the things that people ask me, like, what was the hardest part about making this film? For me, it was the editing. It's like, this could have been a 7-hour film. Really could. There's that much good content, right? But I found myself in so many situations having to decide what stays and what goes, right? And so again, everything had to touch on one of the 4 themes of the movie. Unsustainability of government programs, corporate social responsibility, entrepreneurship, and the role of the family in the community. But there were 20 other themes that throughout our interviews were touched on. And, you know, the first cut of the film was well over 2 hours. And then I had to keep whittling it down and whittling it down to the point now. But, you know, some of those just, again, heart-wrenching, but still very educational and authentic moments when you're talking to these families and these practitioners and experts in the field, to the extent you can be an expert in this field. They would all say that too. They're like, we're all just trying as hard as we can. You know,
absolutely. Yes.
to do it.
Excellent. Yes. All right. I'm going to pause again. We want to welcome Leslie, PS, and Dave. Thank you for spending your Monday evening with us. Again, we have Stephen Mackey, who is the producer and director of This Business of Autism. We have another question, Stephen. Kelly asks, what are the most successful ways you feel are good to raise awareness? What are the most successful ways you feel are good to raise awareness?
So,
thank you, Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Kelly, for the question. We appreciate you joining us tonight. So, for me, the best ways to raise awareness are to show these people in action, proving to, and just proving to the world that they can do the job, that they can do the work. That's why we did a film. That's why we didn't just write an article. You have to see them in action, and you have to see the products that they're capable of. And they're, you know, I just feel that we just caught this wave, this momentum right at, it's just building. You know, when you look at, of course, Spectrum Designs and the number of people that are contacting Spectrum, they're like, we want a Spectrum in our community. You know, those guys and gals, you know, Patrick and Stella and Nicole and their board of directors are trying to figure out how to field all of these inquiries now. But if you look at, you know, and my apologies, I don't know the name of it, the car wash place down in Florida that employs people on the spectrum. There's a chocolate shop here in Northern Virginia, the DC area, that employs a lot of folks with Downs. There's a coffee shop somewhere else that employs a lot of folks with Downs or whatever. It's the visualization and it's the happy faces. But I think that The social media is helping to create this momentum. But again, it's visual. Like, you can tell someone 100 times. People on the spectrum are really, really capable at process-oriented manufacturing positions, and they can make t-shirts, and people will, oh, okay, I kind of get it. But you show them through video and through film and through 1-minute social media documentaries and other things like that, and you put it right in front of them so they can see it in action. That's when I think, from what I've heard from my audience and the people that have seen the film, they're like, now I get it. And even for Patrick, he's like, we will have conversations with people, but when they come to Spectrum and they do a tour and they walk through the production facility and they see these folks in action with very minimal supervision, working and doing repetitive work at a very high level, people, it really resonates. But I think the visual nature of trying to tell not just our story, but all of these stories is very critical. You can tell people until you're blue in the face. You got to show them.
Absolutely. Yes. And it was wonderful to connect with so many of those people from the film, because they're very, Stella is my hero. I told her that. I mean, she is this mom that's on fire, and it's just, the whole thing just blew me away. I mean, it was awesome. Their passion and their drive and their need for change is so apparent, so obvious. And
well, everybody that we interviewed that knows Stella has said from day one, she's not just advocating for Nicholas, her son.
Yeah, right.
Stella advocated for this entire community.
Absolutely.
And she didn't take no for an answer. And Stella, and she says this in the film, she internalized a lot of her pain, a lot of her anguish and anxiety. She puts on a very bold face for the world. She is a tough lady. She is a driven woman. And I give her all the respect in the world. I wouldn't tangle with her. I would not go in the ring with that woman.
No way.
No way, man.
She's determined. She's my hero. It was so exciting to connect with her when I was there at the premiere. I want to add, we're now at 9:55, and if you have any other questions, we're about to wrap up. So any other questions, we'd love to, for Stephen Mackey, please send them in now. Brian asks, where and how can I watch This Business of Autism?
Brian, thank you for that. So right now, the film is available online to either rent or purchase on Amazon.com and Vimeo. And we're in the process of adding it to iTunes and Google Play. And that'll take a couple of, several weeks to a couple of months to get that approved. But again, with the success in the film, happy to report we're now official selections for 2 film festival, the Gold Coast Film Festival, which is where we premiered in Long Island, and then the Glendale International Film Festival. So if you're in the LA area or anybody out there, come October, we're going to be screening the film in Los Angeles. That's kind of a pinch me moment for a first-time film. And then again, we have standard DVD and Blu-ray DVD, and we're also getting ready to launch, again, the world of self-distribution for indie filmmakers has changed, but there's a platform called TUGG, TUGG.com, and we will announce that on our website. We've just finalized our contract with them, but that will allow people all over the country to work with your smaller, not even smaller, like there's some big name theaters. Basically, TUGG handles the distribution and the sales of tickets, and then it will allow people who work with nonprofits or special ed educators to host their own screenings in their own town. And TUGG does all of the fulfillment and stuff like that. So the best repository and resource is the film's website, www.thisbusinessofautism.com. I'm sure Molly will have it posted all over.
Of course.
But the other part of this, and a huge part of our marketing campaign, is trusting the passion and empowering the passion of people who are who work in this field, who have family members or friends who are impacted by autism and any developmental disability, to champion the film on our behalf. We created the best film that we could on a shoestring budget, and our marketing plan is y'all help, please. So like us on Facebook, share the posts, tweet it out, do all of that stuff. We want people that see the film to become our field sales force. And, and Molly, and everything that you're doing is so powerful. And we thank you so much for your support. But this is how we're going to spread the word.
Yes.
We made a great film. Everybody that sees it loves it. Now we need people to go forth and share it. And at the end of the day, for me as a filmmaker, I know we're going to touch people, and I know we're going to change lives with this project.
Absolutely. And I know that too. And I couldn't help but, of course, to get emotional while watching the film. I mean, it's touching, it's empowering. And of course, when I watch it, Stephen, I immediately think of my son, Jacob, and how films like This Business of Autism are paving the way to make a better future for him and for all people with a disability. So I want to thank you and for your passion. Even though it's not affected your family personally, you have that vision on the global scale of how it impacts us all. And when it impacts one person, it impacts us all. And so I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Stephen. It means the world to me that you took this on, that you directed, that you produced this, and that you put your heart and soul into this, because you're making a better world for my son, Jacob, and for everyone so thank you.
Yeah, and I will just leave you with this. My message to the neurotypical and the neurodiverse community is, these families didn't ask for this. This reality was thrust upon them. I am I have such a deep respect for the battles that they fight every day, but at the same time, the sequence in there with the Fishbines, Samantha Fishbine, to me, is one of the most beautiful quotes that came out of the film. Is there's a lot of ways to be successful in this world, and so many of the folks that we met who are on the spectrum are just happy all day, and they create happiness in the world around them. And to me, so many of us are so driven to do the next thing and do the next great accomplishment. And we look back on our lives and we're like, was I happy? So that's another question that I think all of us have to ask. And, to the extent that this project gets people thinking about stuff like that too, then that's a win for us. So again, thank you to everybody that did take the time to join us tonight. And let's chat again. This was fun.
Excellent. I'm glad. Yeah. I try to make it so laid back. This is just a conversation.
My laptop crashed, and then I had to pour a glass of wine. These things take time.
Right. The wine was very important. I absolutely agree with that one.
Yeah, I'm very soft-spoken. I don't have a lot to say.
Yeah.
But no one ever.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up our Movement Monday. We're about to do our drawing. If there's no other questions or comments, we're going to have you pick a number, Stephen. So give me just a second. All right, hold on. Brian's going to tell me the numbers.
Let's do 1 to 50.
1 to 50. So pick a number between 1 and 50, Stephen.
Oh, depression. You know what? I'm an audio engineer. I'm going to go with 44.
Okay, 44. All right, drum roll. While Brian figures this out, who is our lucky winner?
It may not be Molly Korte. I'm going to say rigged.
Here we go.
I'm going to say Rob Klaus on there. Don't know it's rigged too.
All right, congratulations, Frank West in Radford, Virginia. You are our winner tonight.
Radford, Korte, what do you say, Radford? Yeah, man.
Yeah. Maybe he did rig it, right?
You might have. You might have saw that Radford alum over there. Yeah.
Right. Anyways, well, congratulations, Frank. You have won the signed winery memoir, Dream, Build, and Believe. And you also have won the free online rental of This Business of Autism. Thank you for spending your evening with us, and thank you to everyone who joined us tonight.
Thank you all.
Go out and see this movie, guys.
Yes.
Oh, the book actually, here it is. I have the copy of the book. This is the book. So Frank, this is the book you won. And this is Stephen's lovely family on the back.
And anyone who thinks I'm crazy before reading it knows I'm crazy after. Thank you
awesome,
all.
Stephen. Thank you again for being with us tonight, Stephen. It was a pleasure having you on the show tonight.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.